Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So I'm continuing on my quest to be the biggest zinc artist in the world. So I've worked with quite a few metals in my career so far. Obviously zinc, bismuth, pewter, which is a mixture of tin and antimony. I've worked with lead. I hope to work with a few other elements, but unfortunately some of the most interesting elements are also the most toxic, right? It's almost like these elements are living things and they're trying to defend themselves from being worked with, right? So if I could change the toxicity of the elements, some of the elements I would love to work with, cadmium, very similar to zinc, it has a significantly lower melting point, and it's significantly less expensive too, although if it were non-toxic, who knows if it would still be inexpensive, right? It has a lot of interesting properties. It can be used to galvanize things. It's certainly a lot more rare than zinc, right? So it's a mixed bag, right? If it were non-toxic, I can't imagine it would still be as inexpensive as it is. Not really a toxicity issue, but I wish gallium had a slightly higher melting point. It makes intricate crystals just like bismuth, but then what? You got to keep it in your refrigerator, right? Which kind of defeats the whole purpose of art. Bromine is a red liquid, a red fuming liquid at room temperature, actually. It would be interesting if it were non-toxic. What you might do is make some glass art pieces and seal bromine inside of it. It would just be like a red, you can make imagine you made a glass sculpture in the shape of a Buddha and you filled it with bromine and then you sealed it off, right? I can only imagine what that would be, right? Iodine is significantly less toxic than bromine, right? It doesn't burn you at least, right? In fact, I take iodine supplements, but it's very volatile, right? I don't know what would happen if you made a Buddha out of iodine. I think it would slowly sublime away, right? It might, depending on how concentrated the fumes are, it might be irritating at least. Maybe not so much toxic, but irritating for sure, right? Arsenic also makes interesting crystal structures as well, right? Now, mercury, you could probably do the glass ampoules again, right? It'd be interesting to see a glass Buddha just filled with mercury, right? That one might be a little bit safer than bromine. Just don't break it, right? But I don't have equipment to work with glass at the moment, right? Thallium is an interesting, a very reactive metal, similar to the alkali metals, but it quickly forms a crust that has a mysterious look to it, right? Lead would be nice to work with if it weren't so toxic, right? It has similar properties to bismuth, with one big exception. It shrinks when it freezes, right? One of the big problems with pouring bismuth is that it bulges out and often makes for a very unsmooth finish to what you're doing, right? And obviously lead is significantly less expensive, although it's hard to say if it would stay that way if it weren't toxic. Right? There are a lot of things society would love to use lead for, except for how toxic it is, right? And then polonium also has similar properties to bismuth. It might expand when it freezes, though. If you'll recall, 10 years ago there was a Russian spy that was executed with polonium, and when they were done with it, the hotel where it had taken place got badly contaminated with polonium. I think part of the problem is that as polonium radiates off energy, it heats up and melts itself, right? Because it's only got a melting point of 400 some degrees Celsius, or 400 some degrees Fahrenheit actually. And then as it freezes, it probably recrystallizes almost like bismuth, right? And then it bulges away. And so a small drop of polonium could crawl all over the place, right? And it'd be nice to see what those crystals would look like. Unfortunately, even the longest half-life polonium, I think it's polonium-209, has a half-life of 125 years. And I would argue polonium-209 is probably even more dangerous than the 210, even though it has that longer half-life. Because first of all, it would contaminate places for a lot longer, right? Imagine if the Russian spy had been killed with polonium-209 instead. It would probably be still very dangerous to visit either his body or that hotel where this had taken place. And plus, polonium-209 sometimes decays with positron emission, and positrons, when they interact with electrons, give off gamma rays, right? So even outside the body, it could be dangerous, right? Polonium-210, at least you have to ingest it for it to be dangerous, right? Anyways, unfortunately, some of the most interesting metals to work with are toxic. Maybe one day if I travel to Mars, I might work with gallium and make crystals there. Perhaps on Mars I could cast things with mercury as well. Solid mercury might not be so dangerous anymore, because part of the reason mercury is so dangerous on Earth is the fumes that it gives off as a liquid, right? On Mars, solid mercury might be similar in toxicity to solid lead, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.